Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a pattern change which is going to be taking place. We're going to see that cold air move from the northern half of the country into parts of the southern plains and the southeast, and we're going to be seeing that warm air move from the southern part of the country into the northern half of the country. So we're going to be dealing with really warm temperatures up into the 90s in many of these areas, even along parts of the Canadian border. So it's going to be rather warm for many of these areas compared to normal, and in the southern United States it'll actually be quite chilly with high temperatures only getting up into the 70s and low 80s in many of those areas. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have a few heat advisories and heat warnings, I believe, in parts of California and southern Oregon, and then in parts of northern North Dakota we have a few red flag warnings in effect for some fire danger in those areas. Other than that, we don't have many other watches or warnings currently in place, just a few flood watches in parts of New Mexico and Colorado, mostly in those higher elevation regions. So yesterday we had high temperature of 107 degrees in Death Valley, California. We had a low temperature tied between two areas, Peter Sinks, Utah, where they got down to 16 degrees Fahrenheit, and also in Copper Basin, Idaho, where they got down to 16 degrees Fahrenheit. And the highest rainfall report was in Somerville, Texas, where they got 3.86 inches of rainfall within that area. So we had quite a lot of rain, especially over parts of the southern plains yesterday, mostly from thunderstorm activity. So here's the temperature anomaly map, and basically how to read this is in those blues, the greens, and the purples. That's where we're dealing with chillier or colder than normal temperatures. And then in the oranges, the yellows even, and also the reds and kind of that brownish color or that gray color, that's what we're dealing with warmer than normal temperatures. So this is just showing you how far above or below normal it is compared to the average temperature within each individual region. So you can see that, for example, in parts of the western United States on Monday or tomorrow, we're expecting it to be warmer than normal, but in much of the eastern two-thirds of the country, we're expecting it to be colder and chillier than normal. So that's basically how you would interpret this map. And this is a good way to see where the colder and warmer air masses are actually setting up. So this is for Monday. So tomorrow into Tuesday, you can see that all that cold air, which was over the eastern third of the country, has kind of dissipated. So now we're more of in a neutral pattern. We're not really too far above or below normal throughout that area. Through the central area of the country, we're dealing with below normal temperatures still. And that's for much of the southern and central plains, even up through parts of the Great Lakes. So we're starting to see this area of cold air kind of diminish and push it further to the south. Eventually, this entire cold air mass will move out, and we won't really have any more cold air to really talk about. We still have some warmer temperatures really hanging on for the west coast, where we're going to be dealing with somewhat of a heat wave in those areas. That's why you have those excessive heat warnings in parts of California already up for temperatures that could reach 105 or even 110 or more degrees. So really warm in many of those areas. This would be for Tuesday. Here would be by Wednesday, and you can see this warm air is ever so slightly moving and pushing this line further to the south. So we're seeing this area of warm air eventually and very slowly moving further to the south. Over the next week, we're going to see pretty much most of the country, I would say 75% of the country, under warmer than normal temperatures. If you still look out at the west, we do have some of those well above normal temperatures still in areas like California, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. So all those areas still dealing with well above normal temperatures. If we go on to the next frame here, this would be for Thursday. You can see that for Thursday, the 3rd of June, we still have some of those chillier temperatures lingering on for parts of the southern United States, and also even into parts of the Ohio Valley as well. That's where we're dealing with those chillier than normal temperatures. But again, this is all going to be pushed further to the south, most likely by the later part of this week. So those warmer temperatures are now heading into parts of the northern plains. So you're now seeing parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, Montana getting closer to 10 to 15 degrees above normal Fahrenheit. So we're really getting up there in terms of the temperatures. Actual high temperatures could be reaching 85 to 95 degrees in many of these areas. So we'll be rather warm compared to normal in parts of the northern plains. If we look at for Friday, you can see still colder than normal in the southeast and the southern plains, and then it's warmer than normal over the northern tier of the country and also into the western United States. So you can see how that line of the above normal temperatures is slowly, gradually pushing further to the south. Here would be by Saturday, and now it's starting to really push in on the southern United States. You can see the well above normal temperatures into parts of the northern plains, but really anywhere from California to Maine is dealing with these well above normal temperatures indicated by the dark red shade. We also do want to watch out in parts of the northwest. If you live in states like Washington or Oregon, we could go into a bit of a chillier pattern because this is our next cold air mass. So eventually, over the next about, I would say, 5 days from June 5th, so this would be right around June 10th, is when most of the western United States might go back into a bit of a colder or chillier pattern. And that's because we're seeing our next air mass move in from British Columbia and Washington, and that'll dive down into the western United States and the Rockies. So that's going to be the next area of colder air. But before that happens, we still have to take care of our original cold air source, which is still lingering into the southern part of the country. If we go for Sunday here, you can see those warmer temperatures still lingering on for parts of the northern United States, the northwest dealing with those colder than normal temperatures, and the southern United States also still a little bit chillier than normal, but nothing that's going to be too abnormal or too extreme in many of those areas. Here would be the actual high temperatures, and you can see that we're dealing with really warm temperatures out through the western United States. So you can see through parts of California especially, we're dealing with high temperatures that could be reaching up near 105 in kind of that pinkish shade to as much as 110. So that's where we're really getting high up there in terms of the temperatures. So we really want to watch out for that because these temperatures are going to be very, very high, very extreme. So you might want to be limiting your time outdoors if you do work outdoors, or if you are just going to be planning on being outdoors on Monday or Tuesday. Definitely limit your time out there because the temperatures will be very, very warm and extreme. So you're definitely going to want to drink a lot of water and stay indoors as much as possible, especially on Monday and Tuesday. Here to be by Tuesday, and you can see warms up for the northern plains quite significantly. We were in the 60s on Monday, and now we're into the 70s, even into the low 80s in a few of these areas. Even though parts of the southeast are actually a little bit below normal, it will still feel actually rather comfortable. So I think this is the one part of the country where being 10 degrees below normal in the late spring, early summer is actually quite nice because you're not in the 90s anymore. You're now into the 80s or even the 70s, which is actually a lot more comfortable, at least in my opinion, than being up into the upper 90s. So this might actually be welcomed in some of these areas. And even if you don't like these chillier than normal temperatures in the southern plains in the southeast, they will move out probably by another week or two. So nothing here is going to be too sustained for a long period of time. It warms up even more, especially into the interior mountainous west. So not along the coast necessarily. It's not where it's warming up the most. It warmed up from the 70s and 60s on Monday in parts of, let's say, Utah, Nevada, Idaho, and now it's getting up into the 80s and 90s in many of these regions. So that's maybe a 20-30 degree temperature jump. And that should definitely make it feel a lot warmer than anything we've seen so far this summer season or this late spring so far. So here would be by Wednesday. You can see that the northern plains is definitely starting to warm up. We're dealing with now a fairly widespread area of 80+ degree temperatures. If we look at for Thursday, still warming up, and it's actually getting a lot warmer, 85 to 95 degrees in many of these areas. You're definitely starting to feel the chill if you live in parts of the southern United States. We have in the southern plains temperatures only getting into the low 80s, which again isn't actually too bad. It still will feel rather comfortable, especially with lower than normal dew points in those areas. So it will be actually a rather comfortable week in those areas. The southeast dealing with temperatures into the mid 80s and low 90s, but still that is rather comfortable. And the northeast and Great Lakes finally starting to warm up just a little bit. It is still well below normal in these areas, but you are warming up into the mid 70s at least in most of these areas, so definitely not feeling as cold as it is for today, yesterday, and what we might be experiencing on Monday. If we look at for Friday, you can see that it is still above normal in parts of the northern plains and also through parts of the southwest, where we're dealing with maybe now a few areas getting above 110, maybe even close to 115 degrees. For example, Death Valley, California, regularly on the top part of the list in terms of the high temperatures in the United States. We could potentially be seeing a high temperature getting up near 115 degrees in those areas. And then if we look at for Saturday, you can see that it is also going to be rather above normal in those areas where we're dealing with temperatures getting up into the 90s. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.